Hello there guys, and welcome to this hobby update for my American Civil War Epic Battles collection. I've been busily painting over the last 5-6 weeks trying to get some new units ready for an up and coming battle report. So just thought I'd go through where I've got to and what I've been up to on that front. So let's dive straight in. So first off, I've been looking at these for some time. So I've picked up a box of the Iron Brigade. So I've been looking at this for a while because it's not the cheapest. These are all metal models, so a lot of the Epic range is plastic, but these are still only available in metal as far as I can see anyway. But I just thought they'd be a great addition to my Union force, so I've managed to finish those off. So the Iron Brigade were fought at Antietam and at Fredericksburg, and also at Gettysburg as well. Although from what I've read at Gettysburg, they pretty much blew themselves out in many respects around the casualties they took, and they were never quite the same after Gettysburg. However, very famous regiment, brigade, sorry. So we've got the 7th, the 6th and the 2nd Wisconsin. Now, in the pack you get strips of 5, so they come on these little strips of 5. So the plastics come in rows of 10, but these are 5s and you put them together that way. But it was nice because there's quite a lot of variation, although I'm not sure it's that easy to see at this size or this scale. But I think there were 8 packs. So you had the command stands. There was 2. So there's 2 strips of 1 strip and the 2nd strip. And then there were 6 other packets, and there were slight variations on how they were staggered. They're all obviously still in March poses, but there was kind of steps and staggers and slightly different variations of where they were. But what I liked about the Iron Brigade in terms of these models, whereas the plastics are very generic, these are very specific to those regiments, where basically they had these kind of brimmed hats and with the gold badges and stuff. I mean, the rest of the uniform is very much painted on the colour scheme that you'll have seen before if you've been following my progress. And looking at some research around the uniforms, I mean, all the leather and the backpacks were black, so there's not a lot you can do with these. So I ended up just doing some variation on the bedrolls just to provide a bit of variation. And they've got the kind of bit of gold there on the hats as well to try and pick out some of that. But I think it will look really nice. There's enough for more. So these were quite big regiments, so I'm going to add 1 more stand for each. I think there was enough for 15. So I do my regiments in 3s for standard regiments. So there's enough for another 2 stands for each one, but I'm going to do 1 more for each of these to make them large regiments. But just a bit of the details. So yeah, that's the command stand. So you've got the 2 flag bearers, drummer, the guy with the sword. You've got the flags on, and again just a bit of variation. I'm not sure you can really tell, but these are varied in terms of how these little strips of 5 put together, so I've kind of mixed it up a little bit to try and give it a bit of interest. But they're pretty much all the same after that. But I enjoyed getting these done because they're a nice addition to the Union forces anyway, as you can see. They look quite nice. And also, what was interesting, I think, for me, because it is the Iron Brigade, these are actually metal miniatures. They're quite heavy, which I quite like, actually. So I do like the plastic Epic stuff. I think it's really nice. But there's some weight behind these. I do feel quite solid. So it's quite apt that they're the Iron Brigade and they're made of metal. So yeah, so pretty pleased how they've turned out. And that's another brigade done for my Union. I think that brings me up to about 18 now, I think, 18 regiments. Or 19, so quite pleased with that. Just got to add those extra stands. So that's the first thing I've been doing, so that's finished that now. It's a bit monotonous doing all those guys, but I think they look all right now they're finished. And then also, I focused on, so they brought out these skirmisher models, Warlord Games did. I think you could buy them. I think the second release, when Epic came out, there was actually a box set for just these, but then they got rid of that and they just did the plastic brigade box set you've got now, which has got the Zouaves, the cavalry, and these guys in it. So I bought a couple of boxes of these. Now these have been on the channel before, and this was a regiment of skirmishers. Now in the Glory Hallelujah supplement for the game, it does say that you can have 1 regiment in a brigade that is in skirmish order, and that skirmishing was, part of the American Civil War. Some regiments used to send skirmishers out, but sometimes whole regiments would be kind of sent into a skirmish order for the battle. So I had this done, but what I wanted to do, I wanted to expand this a little bit. So I got some of these left over, but not enough for all three. So I went to Peter Pig. Now again, if you've followed the channel before, I've bought a few things from Peter Pig. Peter Pig are a miniatures manufacturer. They do all sorts, but they do American Civil War. Their uniforms, whereas Warlord are generic, the Peter Pig ones are a bit more, they are modelled on the actual uniforms for the Confederates or Union, so there are slight variances in the uniforms. So I quite like that about Peter Pig. They are true scale 15mm, so they are a bit bigger than the Warlord, which are 13.5. So it doesn't always work, but you can slot in the models around your epic stuff. I've done it mainly for commanders, some of the cavalry. So what I did is I picked up this command squad of 3, and these are like a half an hour to a 45-minute paint job really. You just knock these out very quickly. Again, I use pretty much contrast paints anyway, so that didn't take too long. And what it meant I could do, I just painted up one more sprue of these, just one more base, sorry, and I was able to get in these guys in the middle, and then suddenly you've got now 2 regiments. So it didn't take much to get another couple of regiments done in skirmish order, and I really like that. Now I've got one for each, so I could run 2 brigades with a skirmishing unit as well. Now whether these guys would have a flag and a drum and run around like that, I don't know, but I think it looks pretty cool. I like it anyway. I think it's a nice little addition. These guys are kneeling, so that worked. I did buy ones that were standing as well, but they were just slightly too tall for my liking. Didn't think they fitted in as much against the guys that are standing there. As you can see, the size difference. I mean, you can't really tell when it's on the table, but the standing ones were a bit too tall for my liking. So I just stuck with those. So that added another couple of regiments for me as well. So that was good. So that's expanded the collection again. So I think this is what brought me up to about 19 regiments, I think, doing that. And just adds a little bit of variety on the table, so it's not all just big ranks of guys. You've got a bit of skirmishing action going on as well, which I quite like. So that was that. So as you can see, the Union have had a lot of love over the last few weeks, and also I bought this. This came out as well. These came out from Warlord. These are siege mortars. Again, these are metal miniatures, and they came out as a few weeks ago. So I thought I'd pick up a set of these, and this is really now inspiring me for my next battle report. So without giving the game away, now siege mortars. So I've got a lot of artillery, but in the American Civil War, there was as the war went on. It became much more like a precursor to World War I, a lot more entrenched positions, a lot more fortified positions, trench lines. So you start to see these kind of siege mortars coming in, so lobbing shells over the top of the fortifications. So I really like this as an addition to the collection. So I bought these, again, painted them up in about an hour, so it didn't take much. You basically had, dropped in. So basically you have 6, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you just had these little cannonballs as well. So it didn't take long to paint up. I just basically, you can see that, I just basically changed up the shirts and the hair, to just give them a little bit of variety, so they wasn't all the same. Bit of basing on there. Boom, there you go, nice little artillery section there. So that's going to be a key part of the game. The next game coming up. But also, they also released this, which is a observation tower. So or signals tower, sorry. So I thought I'd get that as well. So I've got, by the way, I've got these for the Confederates, and these are obviously painted up as the Confederates. Again, this didn't take long to do at all. It was a very quick job. This is resin, so it's a nice little model, and the figures are all metal. You just glue them on. And this again didn't take much time. I think an hour and a half just to get done. A bit of dry brushing, get the basing on. That's ready. Now there's no actual rules for this in the American Civil War rules, so just need to make something up. But for me, I can see this working quite well with your commander-in-chief or one of the generals. Maybe they can be signalling down to one of the commanders-in-chief or one of the brigade commanders. So you might get a free re-roll or something. So I'm just kind of thinking about what the best use of this is, rather than just having it as a decorative piece on the table. I think it needs to have some use. So I think some sort of signalling and allowing some sort of re-roll would be quite fun and quite fluffy. So yeah, without giving the game away, that's what's coming next. So I'm using these towards that next scenario with the siege mortars and the signal tower. So pleased to get those done. And then also, I did feel like I was letting the Confederates down a little bit, so I did manage to squeeze in, although it's a bit, again, I think I'm done now with Epic for a bit because it's a bit monotonous. I managed to get a couple of other Confederate regiments painted up, and I'd gone for a slightly different uniform style for this. I'd got an idea. A lot of the regiments that I've got are kind of more grey. So I wanted to go for something that was a little bit more button-up. I know as the war went on, materials were getting difficult, and particularly for Confederates, the uniforms were a little bit more mixed up. Not so. I mean, obviously there were regiments with very standardised uniforms, but a lot of them weren't as well. A lot of the volunteer regiments, etc. So I tried to capture this in this, and I think these look really nice. I'm really pleased how these have come out. And all I've done really, I've just tried to mix up the trousers. So we've got sort of blues, browns, button-up. Again, the tops again, tried to mix up the hats, so we've got some different coloured hats on there, browns, blacks, greys. The kepis I've kept to the same colour. Again, kept some grey tops, button up, brown, so leather, just to try and show a bit of variety, get the bedrolls different colours. And just, I think it really adds a nice contrast to the blue from the Union. And again, this didn't take that long to do, to be honest, guys. I think it was a couple of nights' work to knock out a regiment, really. I mean, you got to get on with it. You've got to be painting at a fair lick to do it. But I think these add a nice bit of variety to my Confederate force, so it's not all just about the Iron Brigade and other things. So I'm really pleased with that. And again, I think because I've done with this style, I'm thinking about making these large regiments as well, just to allow me some variety on the battlefield. So again, I'll just be doing one more stand each, so just add to those to these, just to make them large regiments. And just on that, organisationally, I've been thinking about this for a while, so I quite like the flags being in the middle. Warlord do suggest 5 stands for a standard regiment. I think if you've been following me, I only use 3. 4 looks like a bit like that, so what I'm going to be doing is put these just one behind, so you'll end up with a large regiment looking a little bit like that, I think. And I think that'll look quite nice on the tabletop, so that's how I'll be doing those, I think. So that's that. And then the one last thing I wanted to do to show you on this update was the key thing for this next battle report. I've been a bit inspired by one of the scenarios in Glory Hallelujah, and I just need to make a bit of space for this. And it involves some naval action. So I went out and bought just not my camera, sorry. I went out and bought a kind of river style mat, and then I bought this, which is an ironclad. So this is from Sarissa Precision. So Sarissa do laser cut MDF. They've done quite a bit of terrain for Warlord, for some of the epic stuff, and they do 28mm. They're a big company for it. You've probably heard of them anyway. So, but I was doing a bit of research trying to find a 15mm size gunboats, whatever, ironclads, and this is the only one I could find. I found quite a few model makers where they were quite small, but not to this scale. So if you look at if I put, say, for example, where have those guys gone? Yeah, if I put these guys on there, you'll see that that's probably the right scale for the size of boat. Perhaps it might even be a little bit small, but it is quite a big, chunky thing. If you look at some of the houses and scenery you get for this size, the houses do feel a bit smaller. Whereas this feels a bit more like it should be, but then it looks really big as well on the table. So it's I'm a bit torn. I do like them though, and I want to do it for the scenario I'm looking at. But also, it's a little bit. They're not exactly the most exciting models. They're pretty flat surface, so it's very hard to get that kind of tone and variation around. And also, it's ironclad. And I've looked at a lot of pictures of ironclads. They do look quite boring in some respects. They look quite. And obviously a lot of them are black and white photographs, old photographs. It's very hard to see what's wood or ironclad. So I'm assuming all the sides would have been ironclad, etc. Now, some of my American supporters may want to correct me on this, but so I've done it that way, and I've kept the kind of top decks to be kind of more timber, just to give it a bit of variety, a bit of colour. On I also made a big mistake. I think I could have, these are like gun ports here, and I glued it all together. Then I recognised the fact I could have knocked these out and made these stick up and put a cannon in there or something. But it was too late by that point. So I was a bit annoyed because it would maybe added a little bit of variety. If I just turn these around this way. It might have added a little bit of variety to the overall model, but too late at that point. I also didn't want to knock them inwards because there's no way I was going to get them out either. So I've just left it as it is anyway. And just adding that bit of timber decking made it stand out a little bit more. So yeah, not the most favourite model I would say, but I think for what I'm trying to achieve, which is a battle report with some riverboat action, that's what's out there. So I also bought this, which was this is the USS Monitor. And this was the first kind of ironclad that the US made for the Union. The Confederates they didn't have any navy really to start off with. And then they introduced these kind of ironclad gunboats. So the Americans came up with this, the Union came up with this. Actually very low draft for these things in the river. It's a bit of a funny model. Again, I like it, but I don't. It's not my most favourite thing to paint. It was really difficult, quite tricky to do this. So you've got this, they had this innovative turret. So whereas with the gunboats, they used to just have really broad sides, maybe a couple of at the front, the Monitor class had this kind of rotating turret. So it's quite there was a famous battle at the start when this came out. Now I've done this as all ironclad because I think it probably would have been. And to be fair, I had done this in the same way. So all this was the same colour. But as you can see, it is a bit bland. And it is a bit boring. There's not much you can do with it. I mean, it's MDF at the end of the day, so there's not much you can do with it. These don't look particularly realistic either. But it's what's out there. And I think when it comes to a battle report, when it sits in the whole thing, I think it's fine. And it gives me that bit of variety to do something different for the games. So yes, that's going to be the base of, not to give the game away, but that's the next battle report. There's going to be a riverboat actions in there. We've got some siege, obviously. We've got some siege mortars. We've got a signatar. So I'm pretty excited. We've got the Iron Brigade. So lots of new things coming up for the next battle report. So anyway, hope that was okay. As you can see, lots going on. Been very, very busy, but now I need to get some of this on the table, start rolling some dice, have a bit of fun. And look forward to any comments, particularly about ironclads, or anybody know any other maker of models that you can get in this kind of scale. I've really scoured the internet. I couldn't find anything that would work anyway. And catch you all very soon.